guys, I'm so glad to have you back. Today I'm excited to show you a new video on creating a card that is using stenciling and an interactive die from iCrafter. So I hope that you will enjoy it. Make sure if you haven't gotten a chance that you hit that subscribe and like button and notifications. I will be doing a lot more projects for iCrafter, so if you are interested in their products, make sure you hit subscribe to my channel, and let's get started. So I have this new buffalo plaid stencil from iCrafter, and it's a long stencil. I really like that, but it does not fit on this waffle flower media mat. So that's why I'm taping it down. I don't need all of that length, so I'm okay that a little bit of it goes over the side. And yes, I could turn my mat around and it would fit, but I just like the way the mat looks in the video like this. So I decided since I didn't need the bottom, I would just go ahead and tape this down. And this mat is really good at holding stencils in place. So I actually did not use any pixie spray or anything like that on the back of this stencil. I'm also using my little iCrafter brushes that kind of fit on your fingertip. I love these little brushes for getting in the grooves of this stencil. And the color that I'm using is Black Soot. It's the Distress Oxide. So I'm going to fill in this whole stencil with that. I'm using a white textured paper from American Crafts. And I'm doing that because I feel like that texture will look really cool on this stencil. Since we're kind of creating a texture of the plaid here, I thought having textured paper would make it look even cooler. I did speed this up a little bit so you know that my hands don't really move this fast, just in case you're wondering. I'm going to slow this back down so you can see the stencil reveal. I love a stencil reveal, so I thought that would be fun. I love how this turned out. I feel like it is very in style and it's going to look super cool on my Halloween ribbon rosette. So let's get started with the interactive die. So this is a ribbon rosette that we're going to be making, and this part makes that rosette. So you see it's got score lines there, and that's going to be where you fold these. You need 3 of them to complete your entire rosette. So I cut out 3. You see my bone folder there. I'm going to use that some to press these down. I think with this die it's easy to at least get the folding started with your hands, and then if it's not laying flat enough, to use your bone folder, or if you're just having trouble with any of it and you want to really seal it down. This American Crafts textured paper is thick paper, so I'm trying to make sure that I get it as flat as I can because we need that ribbon rosette to all fit together and be kind of flatter on the card. I mean, it's still going to be a 3D element that sticks up, but as flat as you can get it with those folds. So I'm going to go through and fold all of these little pieces. You can see that the back of my ribbon rosette is just the white paper that I was using. You will be able to see a little bit of that peeking out. I was perfectly fine with that being white, but if you wanted it to be a different color, you could take the back of this rosette and you could do a little bit of ink blending around the outside edge, and that would peek out right behind those little rosettes. So this first thing that I fold on this one, it's a little bit shorter than the rest of the folds, and the reason is because it is the tab that you're going to use to connect these different folds together. And I like to fold my folds kind of all different ways, really pressing on them. You can see I really work this a lot so that it fits and it folds flat on my card. So with this second one almost complete, I'm going to show you how they kind of look together. You can see that that circle's starting to come together, so you need one more to complete it. And if you were making a project where you only needed half, that you would only need 2 of these. And I think there could be really some cute projects just using this folded accordion style like that, either in a half circle. It would be really cool if it was a rainbow. How cool would that be? I may have to try that. Stay tuned. Okay, so we'll get to folding this one, and then I'm going to show you how the tabs fit together. So now we've got our 3 pieces here. This is a little tricky on how you hold on to this, but we need to attach all of our tabs. I'm going through and making sure I've got them as flat as I can. Once I've attached them all, I'm also going to attach them with something round from the back too that I can press on and try to hold all these things down. So I'll show you that. So So you could use liquid glue to seal these tabs if you wanted to, but I thought just using this very skinny double-sided tape might be easier so that I don't worry that I get my glue and get the rest of my project stuck together. So I put this little, I think this is Miracle Tape, on each of my little tabs, and it fits perfectly on those tabs. I'll put in the description below everything that I'm using, and I'll put the size of this tape so that you'll know which size I used. So each of these pieces has a little small tab where I've got my sticky, and then another side that doesn't have that tab. You're going to put one of each together. So I've got the tab from the left one and the non-tabbed side from the right one, and then we're going to go and remove this sticky piece and attach it to the next one, which you'll see there's one side that has my adhesive and one side that doesn't. So we're kind of attaching those together and bend them back. See how they fit perfectly? And then you got one more, and we're going to close the circle here. Once I do this, it's still going to not want to keep its circle shape completely unless you're pressing down on it. So I decided that I would also add a backer to it. So I'm going to show you how I do that, but you got to get everything together here. This last one's a little tricky because everything wants to pop back up. But once you've got it like that, you can line up your edges and get them together. I tried to show you here how that works. Okay, and then I kind of squeezed it back together, and you see how it wants to kind of pop up like this? So I decided I would cut out an extra piece and seal the back to that piece with some liquid glue. So I'll show you what I did. Once I finally get all this folded together, I decide that I need to put something heavy on it to help hold all of the pieces down and to keep it compressed like I have it, so that when I add the backer, I don't have to go through the same steps of keeping it pressed down. So I was looking for what I could do. I mean, acrylic block might work. I felt like this bottle of water was pretty heavy, and it seemed like it fit perfectly on here. So I just used this bottle of water to stand on top and hold things down. Okay, from that die that we're using, you see where my arrow is, I'm going to use that little circle, and I'm going to put that on the back. That is actually the backing for the words, but I'm going to put it on the back of this rosette and glue it on. You could use a adhesive tape, but I felt like a glue allowed me to kind of move things around a little bit and place it better. So a lot of times I'll use glue if I want to make sure that I've got the ability to move around whatever I'm putting down. I coat this with a lot of glue because I want to make sure that I catch all of these parts. So each of these folds has a little area that needs to be glued down. So you want to make sure you're generous with that glue, and then press on it and make sure from the front that everything looks right. I had one little piece that was kind of coming apart, and I wanted to make this as tight of a ribbon rosette as possible. So I held some pressure, and that really helped it stick well. I keep having this little edge that wants to come undone, so I am going to add a little bit of liquid adhesive to that too. I've had to move this around a lot, so I think that was just a little much for that one area of my tape. So I'm going to add on top of the tape a little strip of glue and then really hold this. I feel like this glue, and I'll of course link it at the end, I feel like this glue, if you hold it for a good 5 to 10 seconds, it kind of meshes in place and you can kind of move on from there. So I'm going to hold this down with some weight and my hands. Sorry, you get to see the tops of my hands a whole lot in this video, but we'll hold that down and then we'll move on to adding the front piece. I'm going to pop up this next die. See where the arrow is pointing. We're going to use that next, and that's going to be on the front of our ribbon rosette. So I decided to use a nice glossy black. This paper, I'll also link at the bottom, it's Erin Lee Creative, and it just has this beautiful color to it. So I'm going to put this on the front. I feel like that really highlights the buffalo plaid and just makes this little ribbon rosette stick out really well. I decided I'd add some adhesive, that is the tape adhesive, and then I'm also going to add some extra glue to this to stick it down. So I just want all of this to stay together really well. I probably could have done it completely with glue, but with a glossy paper, I don't want to accidentally get the glue on the front of it. And so I'm going to sparingly add glue, so hopefully I won't get it on the front of my glossy black paper. So let's place this down on the front. I think when I placed it, I'm not so sure that I didn't accidentally stick my finger in the glue, which of course makes for a glue spot on the front. So I got this glue spot off by using my stamp chamois. Can you see it right there? I'm messing with it with my finger. You can let it dry and just scrape it off if you want, but I feel like there's a little bit of residue left to that, so I decided to use my stamp chamois and just clean that off, and it worked really well. So after I get this taken care of, we are going to move on to putting together the ribbon rosette. And I cut out the pieces of the stenciled buffalo plaid. I'm going to show you, I'm going to put this little cute jack-o'-lantern on here. He's from a different set. All of this stuff I'll put at the end of the video so you can see where it came from. But I did my ribbon rosette two different ways. While I was cutting out, I just figured I would cut both options out and see what I thought looked the best. So you'll see me here messing with it and trying to decide which one I think looks the best. And I'm glad I did this because I ended up really liking the black behind the buffalo plaid. I thought that looked really cute. You tell me in the comments what you think. Do you think I should have gone the other direction, or do you like this one better? Either way, I know it's all just personal preference, but I'm playing with this little bat here to try to decide where I would like to put him. You can add all kinds of things to this little rosette, but I want to make sure that it stays together in the mail for a special person, so I'm just going to add that little bat to it. To make the background of the card, I just did a splatter technique. So I'm using this Waffle Flower matte and I'm putting down some black soot Distress Oxide. Then I usually add a little bit of water with my sprayer and I go in with a wet brush. I've already dipped this brush in water. This, you can use any type of brush for this. This is just my favorite splatter brush. You can see I've even labeled it on my brush that this is my splatter brush. It took a lot of practice just to decide, you know, what types of drops I like and the size with some different watercolor brushes that I had. And this is the one that I decided on. I believe it's a size 6. I covered up my sizing on it with my label, so I'm not completely sure on that. The finished product. I've got to let this dry, so you want to make sure you get that adequate time to dry before you're putting your hands on it, or you're going to smear your little drops. I'm going to mount mine on that same glossy black paper from Erin Lee Creative, and you'll see I'm trying to be really careful with my glue. I'm trying to keep along the edges free so that I don't squish glue out onto that glossy paper and have to clean it up. So this works out well mounting this, and then we're going to start putting the rest of this card together. I've got some fun parts to it. When I mount a card, I usually do it by eyeballing. I make sure that I cut my card dimensions so they should fit together really well, and I usually do it with a liquid glue so that I can move it around and adjust. I know some people use different methods of getting these straight, but I just like doing it by an eyeball. If I'm ever worried or I think it's really off, I'll take a T-ruler and line it up and just make sure that I'm correct. I do want to mention having a grid mat behind where you're putting the cards together, especially if you're going to be eyeballing where you want placement of things. This really helps me because it has straight lines, and so I can kind of look at things on my card and make sure that I've got them lined up correctly. Like I said, you could use a T-ruler or something like that to make sure you've got everything lined up, but I generally stick with eyeballing it and using this mat. I added this Happy Halloween, which comes from the same set that little pumpkin guy comes from, and it's in a glittery cardstock, so I'll make sure I put that down there. It's a cute little pad of glittery cardstock that I used. And then I'm going to lay everything out and get it glued down, and let's look some at the final project. So I ended up adding an extra bat, so we got 2 bats and the pumpkin. I think it turned out really cute. I'm going to zoom in and show you the texture on that white paper and how I think that makes it look even more like plaid. So this next one will be a zoom in of that. I really appreciate you joining me for this video. I had a fun time making it, and I hope to see you back for more. Make sure you hit that subscribe and like button, and know that everything I used in this video will be linked in the description below, and that does give me a small commission. So if you'd go through those, I'd really appreciate it. Have a great day. See you soon. Bye.